You ever meet someone so full of themselves, you start wondering if their ego has its own zip code? Yeah, that was Tyler. 19 years old, wiry build, always wearing that smug half-grin that screamed, "I'm better than you." He strutted around like the factory floor was his personal boxing ring. I was 23, working long hours at Weston Ironworks, a noisy old place just outside Birmingham. The machines were louder than your thoughts. The air smelled like grease and hot metal. And the only peace you got was during lunch when everyone's mouths were full instead of running. Everyone knew their role, except Tyler. Word spread that he'd been mouthing off, say he could take me in a fight, that I looked too calm to swing a punch. At first, I brushed it off. But then, he said it again, louder, in front of people. That's when I realized this wasn't about muscle. It was about ego. So when Tyler walked up one day, dropped his gloves, and said, "Come on, man. Let's see what you got." I didn't raise my fists. I just smiled. And in that split second, a spark went off. Not anger, but strategy. Because if he wanted to fight, I was about to give him one he'd never forget. A fight he couldn't swing at. One that would hit his pride harder than any punch could. If you've ever known someone whose ego couldn't fit to the factory door, hit that like button. Because this story proves that revenge doesn't always need fists. Sometimes, all it takes is a well-timed click. So this was Weston Ironworks, the kind of factory that chewed up your patience and spat out steel. I worked there with my cousin Sam, a good guy who'd seen it all, from broken machines to broken egos. Tyler had only been there for 2 months, but he acted like he owned the place, always showing off, flexing, or cracking jokes about how he'd teach the old guys a lesson. Everyone tolerated him, until he started targeting me. Apparently, being quiet made me his favorite subject. Sam came up to me one lunch break and said, "Mate, Tyler's been telling everyone he could knock you out in 30 seconds. I laughed. Good for him. Tell him to put that on his CV. But inside, I was done. I wasn't going to throw hands. I was going to teach him something better. Humility. Later that week, I caught him staring at me from across the floor. I could tell he was itching to say something. Sure enough, he came over, wiping his hands on a rag like some kind of action hero. You ready to find out what real strength looks like, or what? I looked up, calm as a winter morning. Sure thing, Tyler. Out back. 5 minutes. The smirk on his face said it all. He thought he'd already won. He strutted off toward the fenced-off yard behind the factory, the one we use for storing scrap metal and empty barrels. Everyone nearby turned to watch, whispering like a crowd before a boxing match. The second he stepped out that back door, I followed, but instead of joining him, I slammed the heavy steel door shut and locked it. Click. Then I turned and walked calmly across the floor. The guys watching burst into quiet laughter. I locked the side door too, the one that led back into the factory, so the only way for him to get inside was through the front office, straight past Mr. Langford, our manager, a man who hated being interrupted mid-lunch. Through the window, I could see Tyler pacing, mouthing off, fists clenched. Then he tried the door, rattled it again. Nothing. A few minutes later, he started shouting. The sound of his voice bounced off the metal walls like an echo chamber of regret. We just kept working, pretending not to notice. Sam muttered, "Guess the big man's losing his round." After another minute, Tyler realized his only escape route, the tall metal fence, wasn't going to move. So he climbed. Everyone inside stopped to watch through the grimy windows as he struggled over the top, landed awkwardly, and jogged around the front of the building, sweat pouring down his forehead. He burst into the reception area, where Mr. Langford sat with his tea. "Why are you outside, Tyler?" I was just testing what?" Tyler froze. No answer. The whole factory could hear that awkward silence through the thin walls. When he finally got let back in, his face was tomato red. He walked past everyone with his head down. No smirk. No words. Just quiet shame. Every step echoed like a round of applause. From that day on, he never challenged anyone again. Didn't even raise his voice. Every time he passed that locked yard door, you could see him flinch a little. It's been nearly 30 years since that day. Sometimes I wonder if Tyler ever tells a side of the story. Probably left out the part where he got outsmarted by a lock. But every time I hear a door click shut, I remember that moment. The sound of pride deflating without a single punch thrown. Because some lessons hit harder than fists ever could. And this one, it hit perfectly. If you enjoyed that dose of petty, perfectly timed revenge, hit like, share your own nonviolent payback story in the comments, and subscribe for more tales where karma doesn't swing. It strategizes.